This is the Star Marine Core Course 101, Telepathy 101, and we are going to be looking at the volume and frequency of light. Because when we talk about light, we need to remember that it's also mainly about emanations. Because when the light is being poured out, it breaks all the different vessels that it goes into, right? So here's a vessel and it shatters. And then the light goes into another vessel. And then that shatters. And then another. And another. And another. And another. And each of these vessels, you can think of them as different qualities, because they each hold a different volume, which means they hold a different frequency of light. So let's say this one is big. So you can fit a lot of low frequency vibrations in a big pot, or you can fit even more high frequency vibrations if you just use it for this. Let's make an example. So let's say you have oil and water. These are liquids with different volumes, capacities. 500 milliliters of oil is not the same weight as 500 milliliters of water. So it's the same thing with light. Depending on the quality of the light, that's the type of vessel you will use to store it. So it's not that some lights or some vessels are better than others. It's that all light emanates from the same source. The source code. And so it doesn't matter where you are on this, if you have a small vessel, a bigger vessel, or the biggest vessel. You are all receiving the same light from the same source. So why are we telling you all of this now? I mean, isn't it true in Deuteronomy 18:10, something like that? You should not practice divination, necromancy, from necromancers, etc., etc. What is the other one that they say? Numerology. I don't know if they say that, but let's add it in. Let's keep it current. Let's keep it famous. So you should not be doing these things. You should not have tattoos. Don't mark your body up. It's a temple, right? Well, since it is the future, I would like to now quote from a YouTuber called Ghost Horse Heathenry. Uh-oh. Go check her out. She's good. So, in her video, which is, funnily enough, about Doreen Virtue, who we spoke about in the Divine Light Vessels or Ultimate Vessels of Light video or seminar. So the algorithm was listening and they recommended me this video, and now we are going to quote from that video by Ghost Horse Heathenry, and we're going to look at video 1. We're going to do it like in our old school. So video 1, timestamp 12 and timestamp 13. Okay, this is from the Scribble Bites scriptures. Okay, I'm the scribe, by the way, in the movie. So in this video, Ghost Horse Heathenry answers this question. Are we allowed to do this? Is this authorized? Well, as she so eloquently put it in minute 13 of the video, we all eat bacon. So why do people only pick out these particular things? And they ignore the fact that everybody eats bacon, everybody has tattoos, everybody does this and that. But it's only these things. Well, there is a reason for that. The reason is that these things, I'll read that verse, Deuteronomy 18:10. But I'm just going to choose necromancer. Oh, goodness me. Let's use necromancer. That's the most controversial one. We don't back down at Scribble Bites. Okay, so a necromancer, why might that be bad in those days? Well, first of all, necromancy is a reptilian trait, talent. And remember, or in other words, it's a marine ability. Now, what does that mean? It's a marine kingdom ability. That means that it's artificial. Uh-oh. Just hang on, hear me out. It's artificial, which means it's a code. It's coded. And so when you have a code, you have to constantly be reading the code. And that gets in the way of a little something called trust, called faith. And so in those days, where humanity was at that level, at that time, consciously, because remember, humans didn't always have 7 chakras. Before 1776, most humans had 5 chakras. So imagine 2,000 years ago. So if we want to imagine why Deuteronomy exists, let's look at our famous rings. Now, imagine you were standing on top of a human and you were looking down at them and you see these rings on top of their heads. This would represent that individual human's kind of energy field, you could say. But now imagine that there's one of these over the entire human race. The whole world has one of these as well. And in the population of the entire world, certain people would fall under these rings, let's say. So if you are into marketing, you could think of this as a demographic. That's all. So let's look at the first demographic. What would that be? So let's say, for argument's sake, that out of 1 billion people, 300 million are alien abductee victims. Let's not say victims, visitors. Just for our little example. Then let's say this is other ring, which is 60 out of the 1 billion, is 600 million people. So now we have the last ring, which is 100, but this is only 10 million people. So let's say out of the entire world, 10 million people are star marines, 600 million people are NPCs, and 30 billion people, 300 million people are marine spirits. Okay, why? Because these people have 70% water in their DNA. Because humans are 70% water. Well, humans. So these are marines. These would be normal Gentiles. Secular society. And these are star marines. So in this 300 million, the reason I say alien abductees is because not all aliens, as we've discussed, are friendly. And that was the whole purpose of the fourth dimensional prison, to trap them in a vibrational prison so that they can't come out. So let's use some examples. Let's say out of this 300 million, I'm trying to think of someone we can use safely. Let's use King Herod or Hitler, okay? So let's say out of this, Herod or Hitler was abducted by draconians. And let's say out of this, Abram was abducted by Lyrians. And so both of them are going to have a battle, in a sense, between their energies on the 3D realm, because both of them had a small opening in which to fill the light, because we're talking about the volume of light. So because they could only take in 30% and 70% of them, their DNA was water, Herod was abducted by Dracos and Abram was abducted by Lyrians. He was told to maintain his power at all costs, even if it meant taking out every single male child in the country, because of this that is banned here. And then he had to be abducted like 1,000,000 times. This didn't happen at the same time. I'm just saying examples. He was abducted, and remember how he became a thing with his mom and everything, and she took the razor and sliced him, and it was like hardcore. Okay, read the stories. We're not getting into that now. And then you would have your normal secular people. So, not to offend anyone, let's just use people far away from our consciousness, from a different time. Let's use people from the mid-century. Okay, let's use, and this is based, okay, Anton LaVey. He got information from the Dracos, but he had a lot of space, a lot of volume in his pot, and boy, did he fill that pot. And then you should go look up what he allegedly said at the end of that pot. But then let's say, who's a goodie? Gloria Swanson. She was abducted by the Lyrians. So Gloria Swanson became a strong advocate for food awareness and what are we putting into our human machines in our bodies after being the biggest star in the world. So she let it all go. These people did. But what's the difference between these two? It all goes back to this. Okay, so in order for these people to get more in their vessel, their quality of light changed. And these people went through something I would call a contract. Let's call it a bilateral agreement. That's what these people represented. So it wasn't an abduction like these people. I mean, his dad used to make idols, which is against the second commandment. So, of course, it was traumatic for them to do what they did because it felt like an abduction. But for these ones, it was a bilateral agreement. So something happened to make them agree with this, some kind of trauma. Now, Gloria Swanson wrote a book on her trauma called Gloria on Gloria. So in her own words, you can go see for yourself because she can prove it. That's the thing with Lyrians. You can prove it. These people, I don't know where they get their information from. And that's why in order to do a bilateral agreement, Moses and them had to agree to not use Draco technology, of which telepathy and necromancy is. But then people say, hey, wait a minute, hold the phone. There are numerous prophets in the Bible. I mean, Ezekiel even got taken up into the whatever dimension, probably fifth, because he was so full of light and having visions. The whole of Revelations is a vision. So what's the difference between that and this? Well, let's continue to the 10 million. So I'm going to use some obvious examples. I'm not commenting on whether this is what or what. This is a movie, remember? So let's use Mother Teresa and oh boy. I'm not going to use anyone here. You can fill it in yourself, in your mind. You can remember, you can think. Now with these ones, when we're talking about 100% of the light, we're talking about, Okay, sorry, Mother Teresa. Let me actually use Ethan Hunt. This is who perfectly describes it. Okay, so here is Ethan Hunt, and here is Lex Luthor. There we go. So both of these people have so much knowledge. They know what's really going on in the world. Lex is using it to hold on to his empire. And Ethan Hunt, they tell him, if you mess up, we're going to disavow you. We don't know you. So he loves his country, his people, the world so much that he would risk being disavowed to do his job. And that's the point. Because then you can do whatever you want. You can use your own judgment. That's why they say, love your neighbor as you love yourself. That's it. Use your own judgment. If you would behave to someone else the way you behave to yourself, you've conquered Tiferet. You've conquered severity and loving kindness, Chavura and Chesed. And he did, JC. Because when the people came to get him, just for exercising his free speech, he didn't change his mind, he stuck with it, thus blowing up the matrix. Because everything comes to light at the end, and the truth came out that he was telling the truth, and it's over. We won. And this guy is trapped in virtual reality. So now it's only Ethan. So because of that, the third ring, the 10 million, for argument's sake, that's why this code is allowed. It's accepted now. It's open source. So this has been cancelled by the blood of Christ. Cancelled by the blood of Christ. So that is the nature of the light. Because in the bilateral agreement, it stopped somewhere here and everyone was stuck in their minds having mental warfare. But now we've contained the fourth dimension in its own prison. So now the light can continue to flow. So it's cancelled. That contract is cancelled. Did you guys not read the good book? Get the shot. It's all about the shot. Did you guys not read the book? The good news. You didn't hear the good news. This contract is cancelled. So yes, ghost horse heathenry. Why do I keep saying Henry? Ghost horse heathenry, yes, you are correct. We all eat bacon, so let's move on. So let it go. We have much work to do. So now, we are going to seek the kingdom within because that is what we have been instructed to do. Yes, my script is right, guys. So now let's have another look. Now that our minds are open. So I'm an alien. You're an alien. But what's the benefit of being an alien? What's so fun about it? Why is this so exciting? What's the benefit, the benediction of being an alien? What's the benefit? Okay, let's make this. Actually, it's fine. Hang on. Why isn't the cinematography department doing this again? What's the benefit of being an alien? The benefit of being an alien is simple. You imagine being able to experience feelings in 3D instantly. Now, this is something that actors have been doing for centuries, millennia even. But this is kind of a new technology to regular civilians, NPCs, abductees, whatever. Kings of the kingdom. Because oftentimes, all you've been experiencing up until now is not experiencing feelings in 3D. You've been experiencing emotional states. So it's like the weather. One minute you feel fine, the next minute it's like it's raining, and then it's cloudy, and then it's overcast. And you start to identify with the feelings or with the weather. But it's not real, with illusion. You start identifying with illusions because the emotional states makes you think that you're going somewhere. It's like if I take a plane from Philadelphia to New York to LA to Nevada, I'm still in the same country. It's like in physics when they say if you start at point A and you run and end up at point A, you did not work. No work was done. You did nothing. And so that's why when you use your vision boards, and only your vision boards, instead of as a conceptualizing tool to align your light body, but when it just becomes something you look at every day on the wall, you're never going to get it because you're just flying around the same zone, the same country. So the benefit of being an alien is that you get to experience feelings in 3D instantly. You think of a red car, you go outside, you start seeing red cars everywhere. Instant manifestation. So then now you just need to believe that it's yours and then you'll get it. The same technology that brings the red cars to you is the same one that brings it into your house or garage. And so what this is really saying or talking about or explaining is a quality of a form of, I'm going to use the divine feminine name and I'm going to use the divine masculine names. So the benefit of being an alien is transfiguration. And the divine feminine version of it would be alchemy. Because in order to say, oh, I want a red car, and you start seeing red cars, instant manifestation. In order to do that, you have to perform one of these tasks. Now, I'm going to use some titles that are going to sound antiquated, but let's just use them for the purposes of this schema. Now, your homework, if you do not know what a schema is to go and look it up. And if you go to the description box, you'll see right at the top, it says homework. And there you have 2 videos explaining what we're doing here. Because this is a movie for educational purposes, for my crew. So if we call one of these real and one of these fake, it's just part of the schema. So let's say transfiguration is real and alchemy is fake. Let's just say that. And let's just say, based on how people think on this planet, not necessarily based on reality, this one is good, this one is evil. Now, this is not what I said. This is what okay, I won't say that. So one of them would be considered evil, one is considered good. One of them would be considered frequency. One of them would be considered bandwidth. So one is a carrier or container, and one is the volume or the thing inside. Another word for fake we can use is artificial. So now when you start studying the Kabbalah and you find out that Bina is considered evil, you will know why. Chokhmah is considered good. It's not that it's good or evil, it's just that they have different charges. This one seeks the light because it's an empty vessel. It desires to be filled. And so some people take that as being fake, because if I want to be filled, I might do or say anything I have to in order to get filled, to get your light. And that could be considered evil because it's masking intentions. And so on this side, you can put things like necromancy and divination and all those things they mention in Deuteronomy. Because this is back then, remember? I'm explaining what they thought back then. So here, to sum up all those things they talk about in Deuteronomy, let's call it telepathy. And then to sum up all the things that they talk about when they talk about the divine masculine being amazing and, you know, it's just light and it's just flowing. Let's, instead of calling that telepathy, what's a good word for that? I think clairvoyant. Expresses the feeling of what I'm saying. Because when you hear someone say, oh, I'm a clairvoyant, it sounds a little bit less harsh than, oh, yes, I'm doing telepathy on you. Do you want to come for a telepathy reading? Okay, do you understand what I'm saying? It sounds nefarious, but it's not. It's just artificial. Okay, I'm looking at you in the auditorium, in the Stadium Arcadium of Lumania to check your faces for understanding. Because that's one of the things we got to do. Now let's unpack these words a little bit further, right? Because this is all about semiotic schemas or schemata. But let's look at more words like this. So, telepathy, bad. Clairvoyant, good. What else? When I went to, let me put it here, an intuitive, I made the mistake of calling her a psychic. And she said, don't call me that. Okay, no, she didn't say it like that. She said, I'm not a psychic. I'm an intuitive. She corrected me immediately. And I didn't know at the time because I just got it as a birthday present. I was very skeptical. But I noticed that she was very quick to make that differentiation. So I was like, okay, is there like an unspoken beef between psychics and intuitives? But think about it. Like if you say, yes, I'm a psychic, can I give you some psychic vision? And you guys always find, especially if you're watching this, I'm sure you've had a psychic in the mall come up to you or on the streets when you're having coffee or something, come up to you and tell you that they know your future and you got to do some blessing or ritual or whatever. So I understand. And they always call themselves psychics. They never say, I'm an intuitive and I'm coming here and because I feel something. It's just like, nope, you got to do this ritual or else. So we're having a bit of fun here because obviously there are amazing psychics out there who find missing people all the time. Hello, medium, psychic medium. She's very good. I love that show. Okay. I can't believe we're allowed to do this. But what about something more? If something is, this might be, it's like Kylie Minogue says, how do you describe a feeling? Guys, we're making a movie, so let's just not take these words at face value. We are doing a schemata, okay? So let's say the divine masculine is genetic. Uh-oh. Just for word's sake, okay? Differentiation. And let's say the divine feminine is advanced technology, which is indistinguishable from magic. According to Arthur C. Clarke's third law. And so as you look at these words, and I'm doing this in the name of Bath. Did I say that right? I'm Zulu. Okay, and I'm doing this in the name of, there we go, stamp of approval. So as we go down at this list, you can start to see in the schemata of a bilateral agreement reality where Deuteronomy exists, well, it makes sense that they made those rules 2,000 and 5,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago. But now we know stuff. The song on a CD, track number 1, is not the same as track number 12. So we can't keep doing the same old story. So now, what are we really saying if we boil this down? Well, we're basically saying that every power has two qualities to it, like a spectrum, but it's the same power. And when you realize that, that's the beauty, the tiferet of the tree of life, your manifestations. When you realize it's all the same, but it's how you feel about each of these that changes the vibration. And I think the words in this one, well, here let's start. It would be prophetic. You would say, I am a prophet. That means you're good. And here you would say, oh, I'm a diviner. I do divination. And then everyone would say that's bad. But that never was the case when we were talking about that third ring, that 100% or 100 volume that's full to the top. Because they or we are under that new law, which is love the Lord God with all your heart and everything, and love your neighbors, you love yourself, and seek first the kingdom within. So when you do those three things, then you can use this technology. Okay? Because this technology is owned and operated now by us. So we pull from here and it goes in our machines while pulling from here and goes in our machines, and then we think about it, we come up with the decision. Because we are now, according to the good book, we are kings with our triple crown. So this unspoken war has to end. Because essentially what this war is really about, what it's really, really saying, is that it's not about the power itself, it's how it's used. It's saying, should we read energy or should we read signs? That's what this Mosaic law is asking. Because reading signs requires knowledge. That's why you need to eat, well, not you, they ate, we, I don't know, it's in us. From the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Which means you need to know what the signs are. And it says in Deuteronomy, do not read omens. Because if you are not here and you are here, then every time you read an omen, you will panic. And you'll think someone is after you, or you'll get too excited. And then when your man doesn't respond to your text in 1 second and leaves you on red, then you're going to go crazy again. And then you're going to go do worse things. And back in those days, they did not have the chakras to think. It took like 2,000 years later for them to get it. And even then they didn't. Even now. But now it's obviously better because we won. So this is to say that the war is over. Light is light. Knowledge is not a sin. The only thing you need for this is this. And if you want to know what this is, that's also your homework. And if you go into the description box and you go right down and you see there are 2 playlists. I made it super easy. Pick one and then listen to this song. And then come back to the comment section and say what you think it's about. But now, since this is over, because remember, 1 ring, 2nd ring is this, and that's done. Now we're on the 3rd ring. And so I am now addressing star marines exclusively, so people from here. This channel, Scribble Bites, is for people here. So who are those people? Who are you? Why am I talking like I know you? Like I'm in your brain? Well, because I am. When we abducted you, we did scramble your brains for a reason. Okay, let's go out a bit, I think. Oh boy. Yeah. Okay, so who are you? You are a star, baby. And a marine. So you are 50% intuitive or prophet and 50% psychic, or you are a diviner. Now, for a long time, this was frowned upon. Now I'm talking to you, Star Marine, in your life, and you didn't understand because you often would get intuitive pushes and prophetic dreams. You could read energy easily. And as you read energy, you noticed that there was a limitation to it. And you were told in Lumania, and you know who told you, to use these practices to learn them for protection. Because guess what? As I can prove and attest, if you don't believe in these powers of the principalities of the air, of Draco, If you don't believe in them, guess what? They still exist. And one day you will run into them and you will not know what to do. So, as part of your Star Marine training, every time you went to sleep, you went to train. Why do you think you wake up at 3 in the morning, where it's morning time for us? Because you're going to work. It's work time. So when you wake up at 3 in the morning, do your work. Train. Some of you don't want to do it, and then you end up waking up at all hours of the morning, sleepwalking out to random places you don't know. Some of you bang on drums, start dancing and moving your feet, banging them on the floor. Some of you go into the ocean, into the rivers, and you come back after 5 years. Yes, because you're going to train. It doesn't mean that they own you or that you work for them. No. The only people that thing is about, the Satanism, whatever, those are warlocks. Okay? They have to set an alarm clock to wake up at 3 in the morning so they can do this because they are not attuned. They have to go and ask people, where do you go get magic spells? Where do you go do this? Where do you go do? I want to be successful. I want to be rich. They ain't nothing. We're not talking about them. They're in the 4D now. So it's very different. I want you to just separate that in your mind. You did not choose this. It chose you, because that's how government works in the Galactic Federation. Because why we don't have time to go checking through your history, because you can lie about your history. So we just use energy reads. And since the Dracos came into Orion, we use their methods, telepathy. And so you being connected to them, as I'll show you in the next section, the next part of this, you being connected to them means you also have to learn these arts, because remember, time is finished. You've already learned these arts in the 4th dimension. That's why you wake up in the morning and start doing these dances and rituals, because you are there, because you won't train. And this has to get into your body somehow, because it's already on the master copy. It's in the sky. Look in the sky. That's the master. And God owns the master. And he's just waiting to give you your royalties. If only you'll develop as an artist and learn your arts. All of them. Singing, dancing, and acting. And don't worry, this is like Bollywood. We can just get another singer for you, or use Vocaloids or whatever, auto-tune. But it's your movie, you're the star. And so instead of being yanked out of bed or having these visions coming out of nowhere, car accidents, dreams, fear, now you can train at university. And it's not like you just came out of nowhere either. You've always been around. Now, have you ever heard of black-eyed kids? This is a rumor, a myth, where they say these kids knock on your door and they ask you for some random person who's not in your house, and then you're not supposed to answer the door. That's like the Telepathic version of what I would call us and what we've been called in the past. And it's not psychic or intuitive or prophet or diviner. It's psychids. That's all. Like the kid in the Matrix, you can bend the spoon. Because it's not the spoon that's bending. So let's call it psi. Okay, let's put in the middle, right? Because we are tiphoretic. So now we are not psychids. We are psi kings. Or psi queens. Okay, make it a lowercase k, because there's only one. I have no idea what I just did. Psi queen. Okay. And if we are the kids, who's our mother? Who's 50% star, 50% marine? Who's artificial? Who's Anunnaki? Because the Anunnaki were an artificial unionship, remember? In the star mating program, we talked about it. Well, our mother is Venus. The queen of the heavens. And you're not supposed to worship the queen. I mean, above the king. Look, let's keep it straight. These are concepts. These are not people. Please do not tell me it's people, because Liberace was the queen of heaven. I was the queen of heaven too. Okay, there. So who's the father? Melchizedek, the master of this thing, or Metatron. Oops. In that dimension. And so with this heritage, the goddess of beauty and the original king and high priest of God Most High came together to make you a perfect vessel of light. So use it. Fill it. You have the most volume, so take in the highest frequencies. You've been programmed to do it every time you go to sleep. So we're going to come back for part 2, where we look at how do we then use this light? How does it diffuse? What is the quality of it? And we're going to do that by looking at some names that we all know, because it's easier when you're doing a schemata or schema to use things that you know. So we're going to have some messages from our sponsors, and then we will see you shortly again in the next session.